Hello, YouTube and the world. Day 118 of a screenwriter's journey. Probably 4, 5, 6 days in. Wow, more than that to what I would call the dark, the dark days. Um, Looking at what I'm writing right now, it's obviously from Save the Cat slash Save the Cat Strikes Back. The bad guys close in, all is lost, all of those things. I missed some of what I wrote because I don't remember looking at this yesterday when I on day 117. Um, yeah, yeah, I had another idea. As you see, what if instead of Rachel the mom, it's Biff, which obviously is a joke name, the dad, and so then as I so often do, I get this new idea and I just totally run with it. And you can read what I'm writing there, but basically my thought is, I guess where maybe this came from, the switcheroo, is that would it be interesting if this guy sort of turns out to be the Hogan character? Not really, but the person that Holly has a relationship with, or hints at or starts a relationship with over the course of the movie. And my thought immediately goes to some sort of not really buddy movie, but something where the two of them have to work together to find the daughter or to rescue the daughter, whatever. And in the process of that, they start developing feelings for each other, etc. So that is what I'm writing there, and you can read all the details if you want. And then I'm thinking also logistically wise, what age Lexi would be. Because in the current this current script, it's 14 years later because Lexi was like 4 and now she's 18. But then I'm thinking, well, maybe she should be more like 6. And how many years would have to pass for this to be meaningful? I mean, it could be a year, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking of as I'm writing this. So then I cook up that whole story where you see in the beginning, unbeknownst to the rest of the family, that part of the paragraph, which is near the top of the page right now. So yeah, I was thinking just all these different ideas. The Hogan, would be a different character, kind of sets it up to look like a fake kidnapping so the daughter can leave, the crime family and be safe. And then they're going to go after her years later. Or what if on the way to the foster family, the girl gets kidnapped by who turns out to be the Rachel character, who is now the real mob person or mafia or whatever you want to call it, organized crime. And it's her father who is the crime boss. And she, the Hogan character, falls in love with her, not knowing, so I'm just trying all these different things. And you can see that I'm kind of trying to lay out some character backstory here. And really the only thing, I hate to say it, but the only thing that is really remaining constant sort of is the Holly character. And, she sort of cares too much. She, as one of her colleagues is going to tell her in the newer version of the screenplay, which I'm writing in the present day while I'm commentating this on the past day, is that, it feels like she's more like a social worker than she is somebody in the U.S. Marshals. Because when I did talk to and exchange emails with this deputy U.S. Marshal, which I have probably mentioned, well, I know I've mentioned her, and I asked her, well, do you ever wonder what happens to these kids, like, the missing kids that you find? And wouldn't it be interesting to know 10 years later if they're happy, if they're sad, if they've grown up, adjusted, if they're total losers or exactly what? So that's sort of the idea that I'm going with here. And the nature of what Holly is doing is that you've got to return all these missing kids. And basically, you've got to shut off your feelings for them. Otherwise, you're going to go crazy, either speculating, wow, I wonder what happened to little Dick and Jane or whatever. Or you've got to get involved with them. And then who do you decide to get involved with? And so it could really go down a rabbit hole. And that's kind of what I was working on here. And then, as you can see, I'm writing a whole sort of character thing for Hogan, which may or may not be what happens to him in the story that develops. I'm doing something for Rachel, and then I'm sort of trying to work out a timeline as, okay, Jack, if you go with this new story, which again is a lot different than what you already have, what exactly is the backstory? What has happened to get us to this point? And again, oh my goodness, this is probably something that should be done right in the very beginning before you spend 3, 4, 5 months writing a screenplay. But as I've also said in my defense, and I'm sure I'm not the only writer that does this, you've got to, at some point you've got to write. You've got to write the screenplay. If you write backstories and if you write outlines and if you write treatments, you could just write and write and write and write, and it would be a great excuse for never working on your screenplay skills, which, as we all know, are not completely different because it is writing. But, writing a good story, telling a good story verbally or on paper is a world away from the discipline and the act of writing a screenplay. Structurally wise, how you write dialogue, action, direction, blah, 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 all that stuff. So, and I don't know how many would-be screenwriters there are out there that, they come up with what looks like a killer story, or they spend 6 months or a year writing the story, so to speak, sort of justifying, well, I haven't started the script yet because I want to make sure I get the story just right before I do, which I guess there's definitely an argument to be made for that. But at the same time, until you start writing the screenplay, you could spend 6 months working on a story, and then honestly, you could start writing the screenplay, and within 10 pages, you could have it all blown up, because once characters start talking to each other and you see them interacting, as crazy as it sounds, because of course it comes from your own experiences, and not necessarily your experiences, but your own brain, your consciousness, your whatever. So, you have complete control over them. And at the same time, what's cool about it, as I've said, and I'm sure as a lot of people have experienced, they do sort of take on the life of their own. And so you've spent 6 months etching out the story and working out the details and whatever, and then you start writing up, and suddenly your main characters, or a guy or a girl who you thought was just going to be a little bit character, starts taking over a scene, and it's like, wow, this person's super interesting. I wonder what her backstory is. And then you work on that, and then that shifts the tone of the story or the direction of the story, or so that is what I'm saying while I'm writing all of this stuff. I'm obviously talking in the present and writing in the past. But that's kind of my thinking of why traditionally I really haven't spent all that much time. Well, that's a little exaggeration. Writing all of this backstory stuff and character stuff, which I'm not saying I shouldn't, because it does make you think and rethink what the characters are going to do, how they're going to react, and stuff like that. Anyways, a lot of talking, a lot of writing. Will any of it bear fruit? You'll have to tune in tomorrow. And spoiler alert, the next day on A Screenwriter's Journey.